Can you begin by talking about how you feel about doing this?
As the date was ticking in, I was like, what the fuck? Like, why did I say yes? And why didn't I like beast out? I'm gonna be like Janet Jackson and only eat spinach and, you know, suck steak bones and work out. That was my younger impulse, like to be obsessive and compulsive. So I'm doing it because I think if I can do this, then perhaps I'm telling a story that's gonna help someone else. That's where I am in the evolution of being a Black woman in America. I don't know any woman that was in my family that did something just for themselves. We were always towing people out of slavery, towing people out of harm's way, towing people, like you bring your sisters with you. Like that's just how I'm organized.
Can you talk a little bit about what assumptions you think people make about you based on your appearance?
The first sort of like obvious assumption is that I'm mixed race. Like one parent is white, one parent is Black. And it's not so. Both of my parents are light-skinned and Black. Both of my parents are products of what I call the great horror story and the great love story of America. In order to survive, often families would marry other light-skinned Blacks to stay alive. So many people would want me to be something other than Black. Oh, but you could be Brazilian, or you could be from this island off the coast. Like, why can't I be from Philly? There's never been a time in my life where I haven't been not just proud, grateful to be Black. Just making it to the through the Middle Passage, you had to have a certain kind of constitution. There's no way to even identify how many bodies were tossed over because they got sick and couldn't make it. So the people that made it here, already incredible, strong and resilient. We not only survived, we gave this country culture. We gave you spirituals, then we gave you jazz, then we gave you blues, then we gave you hip hop, then we gave you art and rock and soul and style and food and a soul. Why wouldn't I want to be that? That shit is hot to me. And like, you know, and it's interesting because even, you know, when the whole like sort of appropriation argument comes out and people are like, oh, why is Kylie Jenner or whatever, you know, wearing cornrows? I'm like, I would want to look like that too. Like that's why. So I have no shade over anyone, but if you deny our journey, that's when we got problems.
Can you talk about your personal experiences?
With regards to experiencing racism, but also maybe with regards to like being light-skinned.
My first cognizant experience with racism, I was in the second grade. My father had just gotten his first like big government job. He had a BMW. We were in this town, and there are very, very few Black people in the town. And my best friend was this little white girl who had an enormous collection of Barbies. And I was fascinated with Barbies and fashion very early, and I did not have such collection. And her mother found out to whom I belong. You know, you realize how much ignorance there is around Black physical vocabulary. Like people couldn't see my nose, they couldn't see the texture of my skin, they couldn't see that I was yellow and not pink. Like they couldn't see, right? All they saw was light and blonde. When she found out to whom I belonged, I was then told I couldn't go to her house anymore. There's something about me that felt like something was wrong with me, or that I was dirty in some way. Then we moved to Washington, D.C., and at the time it was Chocolate City. It was mostly Black. I got to see Black lawyers and doctors and artists, and you know, it was just all this diversity. That experience of contrasting that girl's life and experience in my own led me to believe that is about ignorance versus any sort of truth. And her ignorance that she's in this same deeply flawed, patriarchal, white supremacist structure. We're all trapped. We're in different rooms. Like most poor black people in the basement, getting with the boiler, in hell. But every American's in it. We've been taught to be like shamed by poverty that was impressed upon us. It's insidious because you're inherently in this design and then made to feel responsible for it. And somehow if you worked harder, you could get out. If somehow you're at some kind of failure, this idea of like pulling up your bootstraps, and you're asking people who never get boots to pull up their bootstraps, and that somehow this is behavioral or moral and not a complete and utter design. There's policies, there's history, there's laws.
What would you say is like the biggest insecurity you've dealt with over your life that you're working on overcoming or have overcome?
When I did become pregnant, I was very large, very round, and I was covering myself with oils, but I didn't get underneath. I didn't see underneath. And so I had some torn muscles and stretch marks. I've been in battle with that since then. My daughter's 25 years old. So for many years, avoided really paying attention to my stomach. I still have a hard time, when I look in the mirror and I go, what's up, what's up, what's up? I'm not talking to her. I'm not talking to this part. I remember watching my daughter grow and shit was changing all the time. Oh my God, there's a tooth. Oh my God, there's some hair. Oh my God, she's tall. Oh my God. Every couple of months there was something new happening to her body as she was evolving. I'm having that same relationship with myself. Oh my God, there's a new wrinkle. Oh my God, there's a new lump. Oh my God, oh my God, my hair is thinner. Oh my God, I can't see it. Oh my God, but it's not exciting like it was watching her grow. This is the fuck, texture. And I'm working physically and spiritually to not be at odds with nature, with myself. Yeah. So part of my gift to myself and my 50th birthday, I decided that I was going to start to have peace with my stomach. And so part of that was to get a tattoo. This is going to be the first time anyone outside of a lover or my daughter, this is the first time anyone has seen it. So part of it was thinking, do I come down from the top? Or do I show it?
What does it say?
And so it is.
It's pretty beautiful.
And so, it's so crazy.
So beautiful.
Oh, thank you. This is crazy. I'm having a crazy moment. So, remember the last time I saw you all, I'm I'm going to this date with this 37, and he's so hot. So we've had a couple dates, and then, then we had a very, very hot, steamy, wonderful sex, and I had my slip, my slip game is tight, right? But I had the slip kind of in some form on the whole time, practically, yes. And I was aware of that, and that's part of what I'm getting through. And the next morning, I say to him, you should see my tattoo. We've had sex all night. And then I had to say, I don't know if you saw this. I just had this moment it was profound. Not having sex is not an option either. I think that's also this thing that all the women in the middle can get to, this idea that you don't need it It is so not true.
When was the last time that you cried?
I cried last night when watching the town hall on CNN and my colleague and friend Charles Blow saying that how immoral it is for us to inflict violence on our children by telling them that they need a special toolkit to survive a traffic stop. And it just broke my heart because it's the truth and it's so unfair. I remember hearing about that young girl who had a car accident and got shot in the face through a locked door looking for help. And when my daughter was in college and used to take a long drive upstate to college, and if something happened to her and she was seeking help, she could get shot in the face. That's real. Like, that happens. It happens to our kids.
How do you deal with that pain?
One of the things that we learned from the previous generation, particularly of women in the movement, they did not take care of themselves. There was so much sacrifice for the movement that people got sick and broken. So part of that is to take care of myself, to surround myself with love as much as I can, to break from it, and to continue to challenge, to continue to do the work.
When do you feel the most beautiful?
I feel the most beautiful when I'm telling the truth.
Last question. Why in your body, in your journey, in your skin, is it a good place to be?
It's a sacred place. And that is the journey to act on that belief, to act as if this is a sacred place that gets to hold, that has the privilege to hold the spirit that is me. And the space between the fear, the space between the doubt is getting smaller. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. That was absolutely
Now it's
amazing.
sunny again.
Well, now it's sunny again.
I'm going to take photos of you now, and then as you're getting dressed,
Okay.
I'm going to give you a hug.
Oh, thank you.
That was great.
Thank you.
And you smell delish.
Oh,
What is that?
I think I have on.